and interesting times. Today's stories. Most Canadians say long-term care is not for them. New investments to support research and science across Canada. Quebec is thinking about limiting the number of places in English CEGEPs. Modified COVID-19 vaccines for variants to be fast-tracked. The Ontario government has recently announced its plans to invest $6 million over the next 3 years aimed towards helping Black youth. Another record-breaking month for home sales in BC, especially in Fraser Valley and Victoria. Canada joins United Nations on the start of the decade of ocean science. Tourists show no COVID fears as they fill a Mexican resort. A Toronto van attacker is found guilty of killing 10 and injuring 16. Tsunami warning and evacuation in American Samoa after a massive New Zealand earthquake. In sports, the New York Knicks, Obi Toppin and Julius Randle prepare for All-Star festivities. Hello everyone, you're watching Eagle News Canada. I'm Sabir Mufti reporting from Ottawa, Ontario, bringing you stories from across the globe. Most Canadians say long-term care is not for them. Eagle News correspondent Thomas Likeness reports.
A new study reveals that more than 8 out of 10 Canadians will do everything they can to avoid going into long-term care in their final years. The study was produced by the National Institute on Aging and the Canadian Medical Association. It found that 85% of Canadians would avoid going into a nursing home if they could. And when you consider only those aged 65 years and older, that number jumps to 97%. The problems in long-term care came to the forefront during the pandemic last spring, as well as the thousands of deaths from COVID-19 in these homes. We learned of the horrid living conditions. In Ontario and Quebec, it was so bad the military was brought in to help out. At that time, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he would continue to work with the provinces to ensure that long-term care centres are properly supported. Well, did the first wave of the pandemic teach governments anything about the issue? Apparently not. According to most people, only 45% believe the federal, provincial, and territorial governments learned anything from the first wave. Most people, 81%, believe the problems in nursing homes predated the pandemic and COVID-19 only made them worse. Well, despite the apprehensions about the ability of governments to manage the pandemic, the report concludes Canadians still believe the solutions to fixing Canada's long-term care systems lie in government action. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
New investments to support research and science across Canada. Eagle News correspondent Melanie Ronquillo with more.
The Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced an investment to support more than 100 research projects and almost 1,000 researchers across the country. According to the Prime Minister, the investment, more than $518 million, will ensure these researchers have the facilities and tools they need, and will fund projects that will help the country beat the pandemic and build a more resilient Canada. The investment at the CSU de Quebec University, Laval, will help create a program to speed up a vaccine production, while the researchers at Ryerson University will use the funding to develop made-in-Canada technologies that will build cleaner, healthier, and more resilient communities. The funding will also help the University of Manitoba to develop a digital archive to support reconciliation with Indigenous people and will support other projects that address climate change, maternal and child health, genome sequencing, and cancer immunotherapy. According to the government, the investments are made under the Canada Foundation for Innovation fund that support 40% of the eligible infrastructure cost of an institution's research project, with the remaining portion coming from partners such as provincial and territorial, and the institutions itself. The funding will be provided to 35 different universities, colleges, and research institutions across Canada. In Ottawa, Canada, this is Melanie Ronquillo. We live in interesting times.
Quebec is thinking about limiting the number of places in English cégeps. Eagle News correspondent Stacey Diacampo with the details.
February 16, Premier François Legault confirmed that the Quebec government is thinking about limiting the number of places in English cégeps. Cégep is a Quebecois term for college. By doing this, he believes that this approach will allow the government to restrict access without having to formally apply the rules of Bill 101. This project will create a big impact for the Anglophones, Francophones, and especially the future students. For some, college is a great place wherein you can improve your writing and oral skills in English. Many can benefit from this, given the fact that the youth here studied all their subjects in French all their lives. Limiting enrollment would also limit academic freedom. Students should have the flexibility to choose whichever school they want to go to without having that added pressure of constrained capacity. Like Ms. Sylvia Martin Laforge said, CEGEPs should be about academic performance, not some social engineering tool around some language. Eliminating the casual interactions of the Anglophones and the Francophones in CEGEPs would also be a loss for Quebec's social cohesion. It may also affect driving away students who will seek higher education outside the province or to head to private CEGEPs or even online learning just to get the same kind of English training they need for the modern world. English is a universal language. If people are polyglot, it'll be a huge advantage for them in conquering their communication expertise and their career in the international stage. Therefore, their consideration of this plan is a must. In Montreal, Stacey Del Campo, Eagle News, will live in interesting times.
Modified COVID-19 vaccines for variants to be fast-tracked. Eagle News correspondent Andre Lajoie reports.
According to the Government of Canada, future vaccine modifications that respond to a new variant of COVID-19 to be made available quickly to Canadians without compromising safety, efficacy, or quality. A new guidance announced by Health Canada that is issued by the Access Consortium. Developed by Health Canada, the guidance lays out on information on regularity approach needed to approve any modification to authorize COVID-19 vaccines. Should virus mutation make them less effective in preventing COVID-19, Access Consortium is a coalition of regulatory authorities from Canada, UK, Australia, Singapore, and Switzerland. With this new guidance, authorized vaccines that are modified in response to a new variant. With this new guidance, it will need to be revised and authorized. In the guidance, manufacturers of vaccines would need to provide evidence that the modifications of vaccines produce an immune response in a sufficient number of people along with the vaccine safety and quality. This approach is based on established regularity process used to seasonal flu vaccines, for which annual modifications are needed to match the strains of circulating each year. In Ottawa, Canada, this is Andre Lajoie for Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
The Ontario government has recently announced its plans to invest $6 million over the next 3 years, aimed towards helping Black youth. Eagle News correspondent Yolanda Espiras with the details.
The Ontario government has recently announced its plans to invest $6 million over the next 3 years, aimed towards helping Black youth through the new Student and Family Advocates Initiative. Ontario officials claim that this is meant to aid Black children and youth achieve their educational and career goals. The initiative also claims that student advocates will provide advice and support to schools on anti-Black racism and work with the community and schools to amplify the voices of Black students and families in order to change the province's education system. According to a study done by Statistics Canada in 2016, 94% of Black youth aged 15 to 25 expressed their desire to get a university degree, but only 60% believed that they would be able to. Ontario government's initiative for the Black Youth Action Plan was met with some criticisms from the public. Some critics address Ontario's minimum wage issue, implying its correlation to Black youths, especially those living in low-income households. One such criticism referred to a tweet about Ontario's recent decision to cancel the plan to increase the minimum wage. According to Statistics Canada in 2015 to 2016, 1 in 5 Black adults live in low-income situations, with 27% of Black children living in low-income situations compared to 14% of their counterparts in the population. Meanwhile, organizations like the Parents of Black Children have taken action to create an online tool for educators to report anti-Black racism in Canadian schools. Supporters of Parents of Black Children praised the organization for their initiative to help identify anti-Black racism in schools ahead of the Ontario government or any Ontario school board. The online tool will allow staff members in Ontario public and private schools to anonymously report incidents of anti-Black racism aimed at students or colleagues. In Toronto, Yolanda Aspiras, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Another record-breaking month for home sales in BC, especially in Fraser Valley and Victoria. Eagle News correspondent Vanessa Condi with the details.
Another record-breaking month for home sales in BC, especially in the region of Fraser Valley and Victoria. According to the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, Fraser Valley's real estate market has never experienced property sales at levels like the last few months in the 100-year history of the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. The Victoria Real Estate Board president states, "We continue to see huge pressure on single-family homes. New listings are snapped up as soon as they are listed. As a result, the pressure on single-family homes continues to ramp up. As a result, the house prices for single-family homes have gone up by 9%. 863 properties in total were sold in the Victoria Real Estate Board region this February, which was 53.3% more than February last year. The strong demand and low supply has pushed house prices higher. According to Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, what's fueling the demand is a combination of record low interest rates and the response to the pandemic. As restrictions ease, people may be more willing to list their homes to sell. So we'll wait and see in the coming months if house prices continue to record-breakingly increase. In Victoria, BC, Vanessa Condi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Canada joins United Nations on the start of the Decade of Ocean Science. Eagle News correspondent Jeanette Doiseau with more.
The Government of Canada announced the official launching of the Ocean Decade in Canada and reaffirming Canada's commitment to ocean health and science for the benefit of both the ocean ecosystem and the society. The Ocean Decade is an international initiative proclaimed by United Nations in December 2017 and is led by the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO. The IOC of UNESCO is the United Nations body responsible for supporting global ocean science and services. This organization enables its 150 member states to work together to protect the health of our shared ocean by coordinating programs in ocean observations, hazard mitigation, tsunami warnings, and marine spatial planning. As the world is facing unprecedented challenges from an economic crisis, climate change, and the recovery from COVID-19, the United Nations recognized the potential that healthy oceans will have a powerful solution to these problems. According to the official website of the Ocean Decade, the decade has an executive planning group of 19 global leaders in ocean science. They will provide guidance on the planning and implementation processes built on discussions that were held in series of global, thematic, and regional planning meetings that convened over 900 participants from the scientific community, governments, UN entities, NGOs, private sector, and donors across the 10 ocean basins between June 2019 and May 2020. The Honorable Bernadette Jordan, Minister of Fisheries, Oceans, and the Canadian Coast Guard, has this to say. Canada is proud to join the United Nations in celebrating the Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. As we grow Canada's blue economy domestically, it is imperative that we also support other ocean nations to develop more sustainable ocean industries. Our oceans are shared entities, and the problems they are facing require global solutions. Together, we are able to harness scientific research and innovative technology to protect the health of our ocean and create better, more sustainable ways of working on the water." End quote. At the time of the announcement, the minister also released Canada's Oceans Now 2020, a national public report on marine ecosystems in Canada's 3 oceans. Atlantic and Arctic reports were released in 2019 and 2020. The next State of the Ocean report will be on the Pacific Ocean. In British Columbia, Jeanette Duaso, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Fear of catching COVID-19 is nowhere to be seen at this coastal resort. Over 185,000 people have died from the virus in Mexico. It is one of the few destinations that has never closed its borders or demanded negative tests from travelers, making it the 3rd most visited country in 2020. In a bid to recover from last year's loss of $13 billion, many hotels are offering free stays to those who become infected while on vacation. A 28-year-old Canadian who plowed a van into pedestrians in a deadly attack 3 years ago in Toronto was found guilty of murdering 10 people and trying to kill 16 others. I feel justice has been done, Catherine Riddell, who was injured in the attack, says outside the Toronto courthouse. A sentencing hearing will be scheduled later this month. Alec Manassian faces a minimum of 25 years in prison.
It's like you're holding your breath for 3 years and you can finally breathe. I don't really know how else to explain it. We get a chance to kind of continue with life, finding our new normal, and kind of.
The right thing was done, and I'm grateful for the autism community that they didn't get thrown under the bus, because that's a terrible stigma to put on them, that they could potentially be mass murderers. That to me was just insulting. It's been on my mind so much. I didn't sleep a lot last night. I haven't really since the trial, because you never know what's going to happen. And when I look at him, I see a mass murderer. I'm heartbroken by what he's done, especially so many very young people died. I mean, it was just a crime. It was unforgivable. And that's how I feel about it.
Coming up, tsunami warning evacuation in American Samoa after massive New Zealand earthquake. Sports, the New York Knicks, Obi Toppin, Julius Randle prepare for All-Star festivities. Eagle News Canada continues after this.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Agila Pilipinas! A one-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Agila Probinsya. Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to claim our health outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News Canada. I'm Sabir Mufti from Ottawa, Ontario. Thankfully, there were no injuries or any property damage in American Samoa after a massive earthquake near New Zealand resulted in a tsunami warning for the U.S. territory. Two of our Eagle News correspondents, Arian Torres and Falcio Gayan, saw firsthand all the commotion earlier today and helped Alfred Asenas from our Hawaii Bureau with this report.
At about 9:45 a.m. Thursday Hawaii time, which would be 3:45 a.m. Friday Philippine time, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center issued a tsunami watch for the Hawaiian Islands, while a tsunami warning was issued for American Samoa and parts of the South Pacific, all of which as a result of a massive 8.1 earthquake that struck off of New Zealand's North Island. And just for a clear definition of the terms, under a tsunami watch, officials and scientists continue to evaluate the potential threat given the possibility. And under a tsunami warning, the forecast is more definitive, better projected, which would prompt authorities to issue evacuation along the coastal areas. And that was the case for American Samoa, who estimated that the waves would have reached their coastline at about 10:19 a.m. local, which would have been 5:19 a.m. Philippine time. Now, our very own Arian Torres was at the capital city of Pango, which is also a low-lying area sitting right next to the harbor, making this a hazard for flooding. She was able to share with Eagle News her first-hand encounters with the evacuation of a pair of mostly children, which took place earlier.
Hindi sila bowa, tsaka sila mag-traffic.
Kuya, saglit lang. Natagpuan ko na yung mga anak ko. Bumaba ako ng kotse. Susundan ko kasi sila. Kuya, hindi na ako makapagkuha. Nasa roadside na ako. Nagta-traffic at saka nag-aasikaso ng mga bata.
Taking pictures.
Yes, really.
Now, thankfully, the tsunami that was forecasted for American Samoa did not take place. And keeping in mind that that day, today, was still a school day down in the South Pacific Territory. And because they are still free of COVID-19, most, if not all, the children there had in-person schooling. So Arian and others volunteered to help out, relocate hundreds of school children to designated evacuation shelters. They were, according to her, they received free food and drink as they awaited further instructions. Now, at around 11 a.m. American Samoa time or 6 a.m. Philippine time, the warning issued to American Samoa was downgraded into an advisory. And at about 12:30 noontime here in Hawaii, the Tsunami Watch was canceled altogether. So bottom line, this is another series of close calls as a result of earthquakes that happen around this part of the world called the Pacific Ring of Fire. But for those who lived here, like yours truly, it's still fresh in the minds of many residents, especially for this month is the 10th anniversary of the massive 9.1 megaquake that struck eastern Japan and that triggered a tsunami clear across the Pacific, affecting us here in the islands, causing some significant property damage. And further back in 2009, American Samoa lost more than 30 lives as a result of a tsunami after an earthquake triggered that area. Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, Alfred Asenas, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you.
The first half of the NBA season concluded Thursday, and New York Knicks Obi Toppin and Julius Randle will head to Atlanta to prepare to participate in the All-Star Game's festivities. Eagle News correspondent Tenny Sumag with the details.
The New York Knicks ended the first half of the NBA season with a win on Thursday against the Detroit Pistons, and currently have the fourth best record in the Eastern Conference. Now forwards Obi Toppin and Julius Randle will head to Atlanta to participate in this weekend's All-Star festivities.
I've been watching a lot of dunks these past couple of days, and I was gonna try and do stuff that hasn't been done yet in the dunk contest, but I've seen a lot of great dunks, so I might have to bring out one of the old dunks that someone did. But I'm definitely preparing for the time to come. So it's definitely crazy to me, and it's crazy because I was just texting with Cassius the other day, and both of us were saying like how surreal this is. Like our first year in the NBA, and we get to compete in this dunk contest. So like having this opportunity is a blessing. So
everything, as far as training and what I've done throughout the season to take care of my body has prepared me for, game after game and, what I'm able to do out there. So I feel fine. I feel great. I'm not too much worried about it. I'll go to Atlanta for the day and enjoy the time with other players and enjoy the time with my family and come back here and get ready. It's not even that long of a break, to be honest. So, I'll still be in season mode getting ready.
Continue to tune into Eagle News for more stories and highlights on the NBA season. In New York, Tenny Sumagi, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
That's our program for today. Join us again next week as we bring stories that matter to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/Eagle News. Thank you for watching. I am Sabir Mufti. We live in interesting times.